Pump it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with Trae.
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peace that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Grand Rising, everyone. Welcome to the Day with Trae. Y'all, of course, you can see that our set has changed as we are right here at STG's Paramount Theater, y'all. And all week, we're going to be covering a serious topic here around gun violence. We're going to be learning about what our region is doing, what the county and councils are doing, how people on the front lines are involving themselves in the solutions. A lot of this community-rooted approaches really showcasing how communities are addressing gun violence and what's being done all around. And every episode, we're going to be encouraging you all to be engaged and figure out how you can play a part in these solutions. So I'm really excited to have our show back at the Paramount Theater, y'all, but covering something serious because we all know that gun violence resonates like a pebble that drops in water. It has ripple effects. And so we want to be talking to so many different folks this week to really shed some light on what's being done here in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm so glad that we could do that here on the Day with Trae. Of course, you know, though, it is the top of the show, y'all. So it's the perfect time to tag and share this show. However you're watching it, share it with folks who you feel could benefit from the daily dose of dopeness we work to give you here on the Day with Trae. And if you can't watch our TV show, we still have you covered. You can always listen to us anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search Converge Media Network and The Day with Trae. You'll find us on whichever platform is your favorite. Now, today I'm excited because I'm actually going to be talking to King County President Dow Constantine. He is here. And I'm also going to be talking to the City Council President of Renton, Ed Prince. So I'm glad that both of them are here to tell us about what they are doing when it comes to gun violence. I get to welcome them onto the show right now. Hi, y'all.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having us in this beautiful, beautiful room.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us. It's so great to be here in just this beautiful space to talk about such an important and timely issue.
It's always timely, and thank you for sharing that. I want to start with you, Sir Dow Constantine. I mean, there is some things you're having to do in terms of partnership, and the King County is always being looked at. What is happening? What model are you creating? How are you working with other elected officials to address gun violence?
Well, as executive, I see the challenge of gun violence from a lot of different perspectives. There's the criminal justice perspective, and that's kind of traditionally how people have tried to take on this issue. But there's also the public health perspective. We're the public health agency. And so we see this as an epidemic and something that needs to be taken on based on evidence, based on proven practices, to be able to reduce the harm that is happening in our communities and save lives. And so we'll be talking about that today and the way in which we're collaborating to implement approaches that are more than just kind of the traditional law enforcement approaches, implement approaches that are showing promise around the country.
Yeah, well, as executive, you have a unique positioning because you're dealing with multiple cities. And so you want to actually find ways to connect with folks. It's good to hear that. But I love also, too, later this week, we're going to be talking about that regional approach. So I'll be asking you that about, how y'all are actually connecting to that regional approach a little later. Ed, now, there's something unique and specific. This is your fourth term. And so tell us a bit about how city councils play an eminent role in addressing gun violence at the local level.
Absolutely. I think when you look at King County and all our cities, all 39 of our cities, one size doesn't fit all. And so with the city councils, it's really important that we are doing the work of funding programs that work. And not just law enforcement, although that's important, but I remember when I was a young person growing up in Seattle back in the late 80s and early 90s, we had midnight basketball, we had summer jobs, we had all these programs to make sure that we gave young people alternatives to doing things that weren't healthy or safe. And it's important for us as city councils to make sure that we are funding safe, effective, proven programs to help provide young people healthy, safe alternatives to doing something that would get them in trouble.
Yeah, there's always something to be said. You know, when we were growing up, and I really take this approach with my own sons, if you are busy, you don't have time to be out doing things that are reckless, right? And so getting busy schedules, having things for young folks to do is really important. Now, King County Executive Dow, when we think about this regional approach, it is a new kind of approach, right? Because I think a lot of things have been done in silos. How are you working to break down some of those silos?
That's exactly right. Each city and the county has its kind of own authority and responsibilities. We identified that as a real problem, particularly in this area in 2021. And so we joined together to have conversations across systems, across jurisdictions with our community partners about what we could do collectively to begin to drive down gun violence, to engage kids in particular, engage in communities where the violence is happening. And that led us to conclude that we needed a different approach. And early on, we created the Regional Peacekeepers Alliance initiative. And that was intended to have trusted community voices, people who had walked the walk in communities, talking with young people, understanding what's going on in their lives, identifying where gun violence may be brewing, and finding ways to redirect those young people into a safer approach. And that has been something that's been really successful. We focused initially on South King County, where we were seeing the most challenges. But since then, our community work has evolved into a county-wide effort. And we established an executive leadership group of elected officials and others from across the county. And then Councilmember Prince, Seattle Mayor Harrell, and I are the Trae chairs of that effort. There's more than we could talk about in that, but it's really a way that we can not only align our previous efforts, but describe where the gaps are. Where can we collectively create new approaches that are going to start to reverse these trends of increasing gun violence in our cities, in our communities?
Yeah, I think that's so important. And, you know, honestly, this regional approach really piqued my interest, to be honest. I think a lot of folks in community were seeing that, hey, there's something that has to be done in a collective way. And, you know, when we talk about cities in South King County, Ed, I mean, really, the truth is that there is an influx of families that are coming from the global majority that have flooded into South King County cities. And there's a unique role that South King County cities play in this. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, you're absolutely right. And South King County looks drastically different than when I moved there almost 25 years ago than it does now. And I think that's a great thing. One of the things that when I'm talking to my constituents that I have to remind them of is that issues don't have borders. Like an issue in Tukwila, just to pick a city, can leak into Renton or Kent or something else. So it's like, oh, well, that's their problem. No, it's all of our problems. And so as cities, and there's an organization that cities outside of Seattle belong to called the Sound Cities Association, SCA for short, coming together and working together on solving some of these issues and trying to partner, because no one can do anything alone. It's one of the things that I appreciate about my relationship with Dow here is that we both believe in having a regional approach to solve so many of the issues that face us. And when it comes to gun violence, we're losing too many young people, so we can't stop and say, well, that's Tukwila's problem or that's Auburn's problem. No, it's all of our problems, because that kid could come from anywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were a Tukwila resident or a Renton resident or a SeaTac resident. We need to work together, pool resources, coordinate efforts to ensure that we're able to work on solving the issue.
Well, a lot of this, I think, when we talk about partnership, it goes beyond elected officials. I'm glad y'all are here to talk about what's going on in your offices specifically, but there's so much more. And I want to ask both of you now, as we kind of wrap up here, I really appreciate y'all coming. How are you engaging your constituents? How are the residents in your cities, in the county, how can they be a part of the solutions that you all are creating? I'll start with you, Dow.
So a few years ago, we co-created something called the Gathering Collaborative, which is really work to have a sharing of power with community. And in fact, that group was responsible for pushing out some $25 million in grants post-COVID to help those most impacted by the pandemic because of sort of embedded racism in all of our systems, but also to identify the path forward in policy for what we can do in community to keep people safe. We created our Office of Gun Violence Prevention more recently, and that office is working very hard to engage communities, including through these established organizations, but also those whose voices have not historically been a part of the conversation, to identify what beyond traditional law enforcement approaches we can do to really keep people safe. And, on the law enforcement side, established a sheriff's unit for gun violence prevention, and the idea there is not as much solving the crimes after they've happened. The idea is to identify where are the guns, how can we stop this violence from happening, can we let the parents know that the child may have a gun, and can they get, in that way, stop a tragedy before it occurs. All of these things involve community engagement. It is a very different model than has been used in the past, and it is one that I think we can make successful as others are making it successful nationally.
Yeah, thank you for that. Ed.
I agree so much with Dow. Community collaboration, engagement. I tell people all the time, be a mentor. Get involved with an organization that deals with young people in the community. And I will give the Renton Police Department credit. We do a lot of things with young people so that there's a positive relationship with law enforcement. And we do a lot of things with members of the African American community, so there's a positive relationship so that it's not all negative. But get out there, get engaged, be involved in the community, and take action. We all have a piece to play.
Yeah, we definitely all have a piece to play. And I think it's important, too, that, for me here, as a resident, not just a host of this show, but as a resident, I'm always leaning on my elected officials, right? Like you vie for our votes. We put you in these seats, and it's a lot for you to have to carry. But also we're looking to you to figure out the ways to partner, the ways to open up pathways for us to participate. And so I'm always going to encourage, when I got elected officials, I'm always going to encourage y'all to continue to open up those pathways so that folks have, a direct way of how their effort and their energy can really assist in these larger efforts and make our city safer. Because at the end of the day, we all have that goal, right? I think anyone who is living in the county, in the city of Renton, everyone has that goal of being safe. And so I thank you both for being here to talk about how y'all are doing that work together. It's great to hear about the collective nature y'all are bringing to it, and that there's something that we can all kind of sink our teeth in. I'm sure there's so much more we can cover, but I really appreciate both of y'all for being here. So thank you very much.
Thank you for lifting this issue up. It's absolutely critical.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Wow, y'all. Okay, so after this short break, we're actually going to be talking to the mayor of the city of Seattle. Mayor Harrell is here, and I get to talk to him about what the city of Seattle is doing in this very regard. Y'all stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
comedy of Leslie Jones.
You trying to have sex after 46? Put my leg down! Put my leg down!
The hilarious Leslie Jones.
I got osteoporosis.
Don't miss Leslie Jones.
Thank you so much.
Disenrollment is a situation whereby people whose birthright to be indigenous is being stolen from them by politicians that have been elected to lead.
Today, the latest or last chapter of the saga concerned the threatened physical ejectment of as many as 21 Nooksack families from their homes.
I think it come about by hatred for our family. That's what it's all about.
Our bloodline is still here. You know, they can't get rid of us.
Welcome back, y'all, to the Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Joining me right now is Mayor Bruce Harrell. Hi.
Hey, Trae. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, too. I mean, I was just talking with the county executive and Ed Prince, the president of Renton City Council. We're talking about this regional approach. I want to talk a bit about how Seattle is connected. They mentioned your name and doing this collaborative approach. Tell us more.
Well, as we all know, when it comes to gun safety and violence, there's no border. So Seattle has to be part of a regional solution. So I welcome the thoughts of Council President Ed Prince and Dow Constantine, the executive. You know, it's like anything else that if we look at what's happened in Seattle, I mean, for many folks like myself that have seen the city grow, and I'm going to specialize in the African-American community, even though you didn't say that, I'm going to talk specifically about the African-American community, that now when I was a kid, a lot of us didn't live in Renton or Kent or Federal Way, and now we've expanded as the effects of gentrification. So what we need are culturally competent solutions in all the areas, in all the regions, and quite frankly, I think that the African-American community should be the leaders of these discussions. So I'll as this conversation evolves, I'll tell you about what I'm thinking of as the mayor of Seattle. Again, when we start as a baseline that Black Lives Matter, well, we demonstrate that in everything that we do. And when it comes to us dying disproportionately, then we have to take responsibilities, not just from a policy standpoint, from making sure we are saving our community. So the city of Seattle is at the center of these strategies, the very smart strategies articulated by the King County Exec, Dow Constantine and Ed Prince, and we'll do everything we can to save lives.
Yeah, well, this is important because, I got to hone in on something here. When we're thinking about gun safety, a lot of the efforts are being directed toward the youth. And I want to talk a bit about how you see Seattle Public Schools being a major part of the solutions y'all are crafting at the city level.
So there's a few things, and I'm going to try to speak very concisely. If you study and ask what country, for example, is doing the best job at curbing gun violence, most answers would lead towards Japan. They have a culture of social harmony and gun restriction, the toughest restriction laws in the world. And you see their rates of their incidents are low. Our country is almost in the opposite state. And we have almost a gun culture. So when it goes to the youth are getting guns outside of the market. They can have a 3D printed gun. They can buy their ammunition, their bullets on e-commerce. And right now, we don't talk about this, but even in our schools, in the lockers, as we speak, there are guns. And some of the loud critics that did not want our police officers or anyone to search lockers because of the students' privacy rights, I get that. But there are sort of taboo issues in our community that we have to put up front to really eradicate gun violence, acknowledging that our country has a history of gun violence. We are not like Japan or other countries. There's a proliferation. And again, I get blamed for everything. The federal government has failed us. And I also want to say this, that if you look at what they did in car crash safety and tobacco use, they treated these as health issues. And now the United States, smartly, I think, are looking at gun violence in our community as a health issue, which means what? Which means you look at everything you do from preventative, you look at mental illness, you have stricter laws. And you've heard me talk about this before. Under RCW 9.41.290, I'm prohibited, I'm exempted from imposing gun-restricted laws. I actually oppose that law, and I've been lobbying to try to give mayors flexibility, because I won't go overboard in terms of restrictions, but I will have much stronger background checks for someone having a gun. I would impose conditions of when you can carry a gun. For example, if you're intoxicated, you have no right to have a gun. I'll just say that. You take someone's car keys away, but they still get to keep their gun when they're drunk. So we don't talk about really what a more reasonable regulatory structure looks like in cities. And we don't talk about how we could really be more aggressive in seizing these unlawfully obtained guns. But I'm once again saying that at the heart of the African-American community, we have to bring these issues up if we're going to protect our community. And I'm certainly willing to do that, and that's what we're doing right now.
Well, there's a lot that I think the city of Seattle is looked to for in terms of creating a model. And how do other cities learn from that model, how you collaborate in that collective style. Tell us a bit about what collaboration looks like here when you think of, bringing in not only just the regional approach, but community members, the parents who have lost young ones, the family members who have lost young ones. Their perspective is so vital in terms of the solutions that are being created. Tell us more about how you're extending that arm for them.
This is always dangerous for what I'm about to do, but the last week I've drawn up a white paper literally in my home, so it's not subject to public disclosure. I did it in my spare time as a non-mayor. Someone asked me the question a few weeks ago, in Seattle, who speaks for the black community? I said, what? In Seattle, who speaks for the black community? And I said, well, there's not one voice. There are many voices. There are many aspects of a large group. But I started rattling off organizations and individuals. And it occurred to me that perhaps what my white paper suggests is maybe I convene a group has been tried in different scenarios over the years, but with a very specific purpose, a very specific action. It's nice just to get around and have fun and have some kind of high-level agenda. How about and it could be centered around gun violence and public safety. And so, so you're going to hear more about what this white paper produces, because we have an abundance of assets in our community that we're not tapping, and perhaps I, as mayor, and particularly the second one in our histories of African-American descent, maybe I should lead that way, not lead the community, but lead the facilitation of the discussions. So I have a white paper right now, and again, my specific action is around public safety. If we make this city safe for our children, as an example, and Don Mason makes this point very well, if we make this city safe for children, we made it safe for elders, for families, and for everyone. And so if we think about it through that eyes of that beautiful little 8-year-old African-American girl, if we make it safe for her to walk around these streets or to go to school, all boats rise. And so this is work we're working on right now, and you'll hear more about it in the next 2 weeks.
Well, this is good to hear, because I think you're onto something with that white paper, right? But there's so much about.
Should I not call it white paper?
Look, at least we know what you mean. At least we know what you mean. But I also want to say too that one of the things that for someone who grew up in the CD like yourself, went to Garfield like yourself, there is something about how invested everyone is when it comes to the safety of our city. It's not, unique to one family or one community. And you being the mayor of the city of Seattle, tell us about what that looks like kind of, across cultures. We have large immigrant populations. We have, predominantly white city. I mean, how do we make sure everyone is really engaged and involved?
Here's the beauty of Seattle, that we lost tragically Amar Payne Murphy, and the whole community wept and re-examined where we are as a city. We recently lost an 81-year-old woman in Madison Park Valley area that was Ruth, that was a dog walker. And I spoke to the community. That was just an abundance of people, many affluent, many not so affluent, but just a huge community. And there was some diversity within that crowd, but primarily white, but still some richness and diversity. This is the biggest unifying element we have, is that we all want to be safe, and we want others to feel safe. I fundamentally believe, and I don't care if anyone disagrees with me, I fundamentally believe even affluent people here in Seattle want our black community to be safe. I ran on that platform, and they vote for me. And because they know, just like I talked about the little black girl being safe, they know if we're protecting our black community, they are safe as well. And so here in Seattle, I think we have the biggest opportunity. And it's not coincidental right now that I have a search for a new police chief. Not to denigrate former Chief Adrian Diaz, who was a friend to our community, but right now we have a new Seahawks coach, got a new Mariners coach, we got a new Husky basketball coach, new Husky football coach, got a new Kraken coach. Sometimes you bring in new ideas, new energy when you want to win. And I want to win, and win for me means that our communities, all communities, are safe. So here in Seattle, I think we have this opportunity, and I once again say that, you never hear me blaming other people for our problems. That's just not my style of leadership. I'm saying to our community right here, let's lead these discussions. And if I want my officers, for example, to go in Garfield, which I do, I don't want them to go on Garfield and harass students, or to start randomly searching lockers, or start busting kids if they're smoking marijuana somewhere. No, none of that. I want them to go in the school such that some kids that could have, perhaps they're going through some change in their life, they have a friend and they trust that officer, and that officer trusts this kid and says, let me help you, son. What are you going through? Let's talk. Oh, here's Paul Patu over here. I want you to sit down with Paul or his wife and get to know them a little better. I want that trust. I want to build this kind of trust. I'm going to establish I'm looking at what's called a buddy system. A buddy system is where our officers then are actually paired with members from our community to help save lives. That's, again, part of my white paper. It's going to come out here in the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I actually have a meeting tonight, Sunday, at 8 o'clock, I think, tonight, to discuss this paper that they know that I've been working on for a while. I'm calling it a buddy system because if students or young people don't trust our cops, then have something with the cops that they do trust, and let those two become friends, and then let them try to save and protect lives. And again, in Seattle, I think, again, we're given a rich hand here. I mean, we, when a lot of folks come here to Seattle, they're like last night at our Tabor 100 event, many of you were there. We had Lonnie Ali, the widow of Muhammad Ali, speak to our group, and she brought some other folks up here and from Louisville, Kentucky, and they were surprised at the caliber and even the number of African Americans in our community that are very empowered and very passionate about African American issues. So we have a good opportunity here.
Well, I agree with you. And lastly, I got to say, I mean, you uplifted, our former state representative, Dawn Mason. Shout out to you, Mama Dawn, because folks like her have really been involved. We have amazing community leaders, so many that I can mention that have been involved. How do you encourage folks from our community to get engaged? Where do they direct their energy when it comes to trying to connect with the city of Seattle on these solutions?
Trae, that's a great question, and let me give some full disclosure here. I don't think I'm doing a good enough job at that. And I don't mind saying that I didn't see my job as mayor as doing that kind of work. Where I saw that kind of work would be in the community itself, whether I don't want to start naming groups. That it shouldn't be a politician to do that kind of work. I have a city to run. I have 14,000 employees to run. Now, those that work with me, and I see some members here, that know when I'm in organizations like the Royal Esquire Club, they know how I get down. I'm all about the work. They know that. I'm realizing now, going into a 4th year of being mayor, that there is an opportunity that I'm not tapping into. And that's why I'm talking about this African American Alliance kind of structure, if you will. And so stay tuned, because Converge Media, not to just give you all a shout out, our major player. Our media has to be alive and thriving and well to allow us to connect to one another. So I hope to have a better answer for you where we could have these discussions. We do it now in different events. You know, we'll have a Roots picnic, or we'll have, you know, Blacks in Government have a thing, or the NAACP will have a thing. We're sort of fragmented. And sometimes I'm expected to go to all these events, by the way. So sometimes I'm like, yesterday I was at the sickle cell anemia research, the walk, which I'd love to go, because that's an issue we have to contend with. And it was a beautiful, but then I had to dash to another group. And so I'm putting together something right now in this coveted white paper on what that can look like, such that I could really pull in the best of the best in our community. Now, I must say this, though, in full disclosure. I don't like infighting. I'm the youngest child. I was the one that stayed away from arguing in our family, and I like to work. And I just see sometimes when you're in groups, I always say your culture becomes how you deal with conflict. And sometimes that's why you see a lot of dysfunctional nonprofits, too much infighting. So I realize there's a risk of me pulling something like this. Everyone wants to lead, no one wants to follow. So, and I do that quite well in terms of organizational structure, making sure that all voices are heard, but none too many, as they say. So we're putting it together right now.
All right, I'm gonna hold you to it.
Gonna need your help.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna hold you to it, because I think it's important. But I also really appreciate you making time to come on the Day with Trae here, you know, as we're at the Paramount Theater, to really tackle this issue and share out with the audience what is going on inside of the city of Seattle. So thank you so much, Mayor Harrell.
Thank you, Trae, and thank you for all you do for our community. You are a beacon of light, and we rally around it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Y'all, you know I get to wrap all of this up right when we return. Oh, thank you. Look, this is a long episode. So up next, we actually got Marisol from STG. She's in the building. We're actually going to be talking about the ways that Seattle Theater Group is pulling together programming to address this very topic. When we talk about our kids staying busy and keeping their hands in something that's productive, I'm excited to actually share out some solutions right after this. Y'all stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
I learned about the ONU program through many different community organizations. The program, they're very good at making sure that you meet the right people. My favorite part would have to be the community building and also the volunteer opportunities as well. I've been working on my physical health a lot more. I've been intentional about that, and they're very big on that. I'm still learning how transformational it is because there's just so much opportunity. It's a great program, and they will support you.
Visit the link at the end of this video to learn more.
Seattle Opera presents the world premiere of Jubilee. Jubilee follows the historic Fisk Jubilee Singers' initial tours following the Civil War. While raising funds for the fledgling Fisk University, the group shared their music around the world, showcasing more than 40 African-American spirituals such as Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Deep River, and Wade in the Water. Jubilee is not to be missed. October 12th through 26th at McCaw Hall. Details at seattleopera.org.
Let's start the show. Here on Back to Besa, it's always been important to me that we uplift stories from across the region and that no matter where you live in the nation, you never have to miss a moment of the show as we continue to highlight the beauty, excellence, and resilience of our communities across the Pacific Northwest. Why? Because representation matters. So no matter where you live, be it the Central District or Centralia, Portland or Pullman, or anywhere across the country, I encourage you to join me on this Back to Besa journey by downloading the free Fox Local app on your phone or smart TV as we continue to elevate the very best in our communities.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. On this Monday, I am so excited to talk to Marisol from STG. Hi.
Hi, Trae.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me. And thank you so much for being here at the Paramount Theater. We're so excited that you're here.
Well, thanks for always being such a great partner, honestly. And this episode, we've been talking about what the county, the cities are doing. I want to talk a bit about the solutions that are being crafted in terms of programming. I know that STG has some phenomenal youth programs. Tell us a bit more about the ways that y'all are providing opportunities for young folks to be busy in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a series of programs that we operate through our programs. They're during school, after school. We do them in the summer, and one of them is Ailey Camp. That's a program that we run out of Beach Park in Des Moines, Washington, and we have youth that apply into the program, and we demand excellence in the program, and part of it is because we know what they're capable of doing, and the whole idea behind the program is to give them personal and professional development through dance. We do similar things with other programs, such as one that we actually collaborated with about 4 years ago, and that's kind of what got us started in this relationship with Elevate, a spoken word program where we also provide mentorship as well as providing opportunities to use spoken word as an outlet for youth. And a lot of the programs that we run through STG, we learn so much about the youth that are part of the program. Some of the students that have gone through gun violence or have experienced it, or they've also, you know, unfortunately, there's been some sort of effects within their family as well. And our role as sort of the people that are there to provide arts programming, we're also there as mentors and as a support system and providing them outlets where they can channel that in a positive way versus looking to doing something outside of school that is going to affect them negatively, or during the summer that they're not engaging in programs. So that's the main goal behind a lot of our programs, and for them to find a safe place, a safe home that they can come to.
It's really important, but it also has to be embedded in the culture. And I want to talk a bit about STG's culture when it comes to not only offering kind of arts-based programming, when we know a lot of the schools can no longer offer that, right? Funding has been depleted in so many areas when it comes to the arts. Tell us about how this need to provide those safe spaces for young folks is a part of STG's culture.
Yeah, so one of the big things about us and what our vision is that all are welcome, all are represented. And it's beyond just, and I know that that's such a broad statement, but it's something to aspire to, something to get to. And that's beyond our venue spaces. You know, that is not just looking at the Paramount, the Moore, the Neptune, or Remlinger, even now that we're working with Remlinger. But schools, you know, we're out in the schools, we're working with the schools. We want to ensure that students are feeling seen and that they feel they belong in our program. Similarly, so with any of our after school programs, we want to ensure that the students are feeling like they belong in our programs. And some of the work that we do is by looking at mentors or teaching artists or community members that reflect them. You know, it's hard to make those connections when there is no connection, that there's no understanding of what life is like working with what we focus on are historically excluded communities, which, you know, that's important for kids and for also young adults to see themselves.
I agree. And that means that you have to do some work in terms of finding the right instructors. I mean, because, right, the ones who are on the front lines with the youth, those are the folks that they are the most impacted by, right? And so at the top, it could be all this good stuff. You care. We're going to have a sense of belonging, all of that. But if it doesn't actually impact the instructor level, those who are working directly with these youth, there's going to be a misnomer here. So tell us a bit about how y'all make sure y'all got the right folks on the front line.
It is not an easy job. I will tell you this, because a lot of the times our community members that we want to work with don't know that there is work opportunity. So a lot of times, I mean, it's not your traditional, let me post it online and, oh, here they come, because that's not who's applying. So what we're doing is we're working with community members. And actually, I've reached out to Converge before saying like, hey, do you happen to know someone here? We reach out with different community members. And then we also see someone like, let's just say, for example, someone's sitting out here right now and they tell me they do some sort. Actually, right now, just a second ago, I met someone that was from Cornish doing some work in prison as well. And I was like, hold on one second, let me get your card. It's these kinds of things that you have to reach out to community members and ask who's out there. I do wholeheartedly believe that you can train people to be teaching artists. You just need to have the heart and the soul. You can be a good mentor. Anyone right now here in this space, even our people behind the scenes, I've seen some of them. I've worked with some of them. Carlos is always very open here with the lead. He's always open to giving some give back to the community, so we do reach out to different individuals, but for us, it's not a CCS. Let's put a posting and let's come. So if you're watching this and you know that you have the heart and the soul and everything, I don't know which of the cameras I'm looking at, but the heart, the soul, just let us know. Reach out to STG or Converge Media. They'll connect you because we want you. We want to be able to work with you. So it's not easy, but it's rewarding once we find the right people.
I really loved hearing you say that, because I think it takes so much effort to get the right people to be on the front lines. And, nowadays with so much going on in terms of the world of, the internet, a lot of agencies and institutions have really rested on like, we're going to get the right people if we just put the post out. Yep. And I really appreciate hearing this more relational approach that you're taking to say, hey, I was experiencing someone over here doing great work. Let me connect in that way. It's so important. Of course, lastly, I got to ask, you're excited. There's programming going on now. People out there want to know how to be engaged in this programming, how they apply, how their young people can be a part of the great things y'all are doing. I want you to look back into that camera. Let folks know how they tap into the amazing programming y'all are offering.
Absolutely. So if you're interested in being part of STG family, just go ahead to our website, stgpresents.org. And there are different categories on the webpage where you can click on. There's the education side, there's the programming side, there's all the different zones. So feel free to do that. And we look forward to connecting with you.
Marisol, always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much. And thank you for continuing this partnership with us. It has been such a gem to me. You see me here, and I'm so grateful to be able to be back in this space with you. So thanks so much for all you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, y'all. Now, after this break, now I'm going to be wrapping it up, and I'm looking forward to kind of giving y'all a message about how you can be engaged and involved. Stay tuned. You're watching The Day with Trae.
The comedy of Leslie Jones.
You trying to have sex after 46? Put my leg down! Put my leg down!
The hilarious Leslie Jones.
I got osteoporosis.
Don't miss Leslie Jones.
Thank you so much.
Disenrollment is a situation whereby people whose birthright to be indigenous is being stolen from them by politicians that have been elected to lead.
Today, the latest or last chapter of the saga concerned the threatened physical ejectment of as many as 21 Nooksack families from their homes.
I think it come about by hatred for our family. That's what it's all about.
Our bloodline is still here. You know, they can't get rid of us.
Welcome back, y'all, to The Day with Trae. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. Huge shout out to all of my guests today. Thank you for starting the week off with us. I mean, what a phenomenal, jam-packed episode to get our week here at the Paramount Theater started. You know, when we think about gun violence and gun safety and safety of our communities, there's so many different nodes to this, and it really requires everyone to pour in. And so, as I said at the top of the show, all week, you know, throughout the guests that are coming on, throughout the solutions they're showcasing, I really am going to be encouraging you all to make your personal pledge around what you're going to do to make our communities safe. And you may live in an affluent community where you're like, hey, my community is safe, but how can you take some of the things that make your community safe and help other communities have that? You know, a lot of times this is really regulated around economics and different classes, right? Because we know that that's a real thing here in this country. But what can you be doing to ensure that young people have a space, that they have someone to look up to, that they are connected and engaged in their communities in ways that really make them question themselves when it comes to picking up a gun to try to solve an issue? You know, this is something that's on all of us, and I really appreciate, you know, our King County Executive Dow Constantine for being here, the president of the Renton City Council, Ed Prince, of course, the mayor of Seattle, Bruce Harrell, and Marisol from STG, all the work that she is doing and STG is doing around programming. It's so important to have all of these different nodes pouring in. So throughout the week, I'm going to continue to encourage you. What is it you're doing? And when you get that answer, I want you to share it with me. All right, hit us up, The Day with Trae at whereweconverge.com. Go ahead and email us the solutions that y'all are working on, because this is iterative. We want to make sure that we are being able to report back out some of the great ideas that we hear from all of you. So again, The Day with Trae at whereweconverge.com. Email us and let us know what it is you're doing. Of course, tomorrow I'll be back with you all right here at the Paramount Theater to dive into some additional solutions around gun safety and keeping our community safe. Thanks so much for starting your week off with me. And you know I'll be back, y'all. Until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Peace. Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.